Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the Diamond Age. Today we're going to talk about air filter boxes, mostly air filter restriction gauges, and why you may or may not need one on your tractor or piece of equipment. Stick around. This is what is considered a commercial air filter box or air cleaner system. Most of these are manufactured by Donaldson company across the whole globe. There's very few companies that actually make air filter boxes for industrial and commercial situations. Donaldson is the best, hands down, for air filtration, chemical filtration, oil filtration, hydraulic filtration, you name it. That is why most manufacturers across the globe use Donaldson air filter boxes. And this is one of them. Of course, this is a TYM. This is my TYM T474 HST hydrostatic. Most tractors have a very similar air box to this one that I'm showing you today. And getting back on the subject of air filter restriction gauges, the one I have on my tractor currently is what we call a go no-go. There is moving parts to it, but instead of having a meter or incremental meter or gauge, it has a disc inside that moves according to the vacuum inside that air box. Now, before I explain more about that gauge, I want to make sure that everyone understands completely that this air box has got to be sealed everywhere it is supposed to be sealed. That means this end cap needs to be secure and in place, not haphazard. I explained in another video about how to make sure this is on correctly every time, but I'll go over it again. There's little grooves inside. When you take this cap off, there's little grooves inside, little indentions, if you will, all along that rim, all the way around 360 degrees. These clasps have to fit in one of those indentions, and they're marked, or they're made into that rim where each one of these three clamps all the way around will fit. If one fits in the indention, the rest of them are going into an indention too. I'm going to try to get a little closer here. You see how that wire is going into that indention? I'm in the sunlight and I can't tell if that's focusing or not. Hopefully it is. But that's what I'm trying to explain. If you put this clamp in the center between those indentions, it's gonna sit on a brace. And if it's sitting on that brace, this end cap is not gonna fully close up against this housing. And guess what? Air goes in all the way around this cap when you do that. So it's very important to figure out on your air box, on your tractor, regardless of make or any equipment for that matter, that this thing is secure. Now, this yellow mark here, I took a paint marker just so I can put it back on the same time, every time, regardless of how many times it gets taken off or put back. I know when this yellow line is lined up, then this cap is on where these indentions line up, and this clasp will close it correctly. Okay, this is your only inlet to that air box, or should be. All air going into this engine should go into this inlet around that filter. Any debris, dust, or big particles will automatically get discharged out of this little rubber deal. That brings up another subject. when that engine starts, I can't turn the camera upside down, but when that engine starts, you can see that flap opens up like a fish mouth or a guppy. But when that engine starts, that vacuum in this system closes those lips tight, okay? If this air ever gets deteriorated or cracked, it needs to be replaced. It needs to stay pliable so it can flex and do its job. If it gets hard and brittle, it will crack or not close. That's the main threat, is it not closing when that engine starts. So then you have two air inlets and more chances of picking up dirt and dust and debris, okay? That's what that's for. Back to the gauge. As I mentioned before, this is a go, no-go gauge. When this is a 0 to 25 inches of water vacuum. And when this filter gets so dirty, which I am very careful about checking this, but I'll get back on that subject here in a minute. If this filter were to get so nasty and clogged up with dirt and debris, this thing would start sucking down. You would start seeing red. As a matter of fact, as a default, when this engine cranks or starts, you will see a little bit of red in there, and that's great. A little bit of red means this gauge is working correctly and that engine is pulling a vacuum. So another thing it will assure you is that it's pulling through only the inlet that it's supposed to be pulling in. When you turn the tractor off and your air cleaner's clean, it will back up a little bit, back into this little rabbit hole. While this tractor's running, and as it starts to get clogged up, this red deal will move even further and it will stay in place. If you ever get to where this little window, you can see that window is small, but it goes all the way around. If you ever get to where that window is completely red, you have gone past go and didn't collect $200 because your air filter is slap clogged up. Now, I'm not particularly fond of a go, no-go gauge, and I'm going to change this one out, and I'll get to that in a minute. I'm also going to put links in the description down below where, if you choose to, you can buy the gauges that I have that shows incremental meters on them that I'm going to show you on my lawnmower here in a second. I am going to replace this go, no-go with a incremental gauge from 0 to 20. Your normal tractor gauge runs from 0 to 20 to 0 to 25. And in the grand scheme of things, on my equipment, I'm not worried that much about my filters getting clogged up to the point the engine can't breathe. I periodically check this filter about every month and a half to 2 months. Unless something really weird happens, and I mean, I haven't had that happen yet, but about every month and a half to 2 months, I will take this cap off and check the filter, shake it out. I do not blow my filters out with an air compressor. A lot of people will argue for and against using an air compressor. I don't. Filters are cheap in the grand scheme of things. Tractors are not. I don't want to compromise any of my air filters with compressed air just because. Now, if you choose to do, that's your equipment, your air filter, you do as you wish, okay? I'm just telling you what Marty Henderson does. I don't do it. I do bump them a little bit, and I have seen some really famous YouTubers that took their air cleaners out on the tractor out in the field and stomped and slapped and bounced it off the tires, and the rubber end cap was already compromised and broken like a flap, and that filter was doing zero good. It was just sucking dirty air and trash, debris, whatever can get into this engine compartment and into that air box was going directly into that filter. So I don't slam my filters around and knock the mess out of them or whatever. I gently tap them. If there's a lot of dust that comes off, initially. Unless I'm in the field and I can't stop and I'm miles from home, I will do what I have to do and then get back, and I already have one. I always have one sitting on the shelf to replace it. That's the way I operate. I don't want to have to wait to change something out for general maintenance items like that. Okay, so that's the go, no-go gauge. This is my World Lawn zero turn mower. Has a Kawasaki FX691V engine on it, commercial grade, and it has a commercial air filter on it. Give you a little bit better wide view of this. I love this mower. Made in America, assembled and by Americans in Nebraska. I can't recall the name of the city, but it's manufactured and assembled in Nebraska. Anyway, back to this. This is a Kawasaki air cleaner, but it's made by Donaldson. Donaldson did indeed manufacture this box because the Donaldson numbers are on it from the manufacturing process. This gauge here has increments on it. The increments on this gauge go from 0 to 8 inches of water at vacuum. And that's what most lawnmowers should have on them, given about the same amount of horsepower. This is a 24 horsepower engine. This same air filter box is placed on a lot of zero turns, different Kawasaki models, engine models. As you can see, there's some vacuum on this one. It's not near quite time to check it. I have checked it to see how dirty it is at this level, and that's just about right where it should be. There's very little dust and debris on that actual filter inside, and there's certainly zero debris on the inside inner filter, the safety filter. But when you do change your filters and you do have a filter and restriction gauge like this, you need to remember to reset that dude on any piece of equipment if you have a restriction gauge. And the way you do that is after you get through servicing your filter and get everything secured back where it's supposed to be, you reach up here and you push that yellow button on the end and it resets it back to 0. Basically, you can take this off. You can take the end cap out, take both air filters out. This gauge will not move until you reset it. So you just push in on the reset button on the end when you get finished, and it goes back up inside all the way back to 0 and ready to go again. And that's how that works. It's ready to go for the next round. Now, a lot of people say that they're not necessary because they check their air cleaner often, and that's fine. I'm not trying to push you to buy an air filter restriction gauge today. I'm just trying to explain to those who may not know what they are, what types they are, and you make the decision whether you want one or not. Now, mounting purposes, let's go back over to my tractor right quick. Mounting purposes, if you asking yourself, well, where does this thing go? I'm not drilling a hole in my tractor. Well, you don't have to, okay? They come from the factory. If you go outside and take a look at your tractor or piece of equipment on the air box, usually on the elbow, somewhere on the elbow, will be a port with a yellow nylon or rubber screw with a square head on it. That's the way Donaldson does things. They have a white nylon square head bolt, or plug, that's screwed into this hole right here. Having a hard time holding my camera because I cannot see the screen. I cannot tell what is on the screen, so I hope I'm aiming this correctly, and please forgive me if I have messed up earlier. And anyway, here's how you mount the thing. Usually when you buy a Donaldson restriction gauge, it will come with a brass 1/8" NPT. That stands for National Pipe Taper. I have called it National Pipe Thread in the past, NPT, but the T doesn't stand for thread, the T stands for taper. If this were a National Pipe straight, it would be an NPS. But this is an NPT, National Pipe Taper Thread, with a dual 1/8" NPT. If you happen to come across a gauge that doesn't come with this union, I have included a link in the description below that you can order a 4 or 5 pack. I don't remember exactly how many it is, but they're relatively cheap, like less than 10 bucks for 4 or 5 of these. Or you can buy one, but I think the singles are like $3 or $4. So in my mind, I'd rather have 4 or 5 for just a few more dollars than one. But that's how they mount. There's no pipe, Teflon threading needed or anything like that because of these tapered threads. The brass is fairly soft to begin with, and you just take a little pair of pliers or whatever, a wrench that fits this snugly, and screw it in, and then you turn your gauge and tighten that all the way up. Most of these will snap. You'll hear a click when you get to the point, especially this one over here. I know for a fact that these will click, and you do not ever back them back out once they click. And you see how tight that tolerance is in there, but I will assure you, you can barely see that brass hex. You can see it goes in a lot deeper than the other one on the other side on my tractor. And that's how they install. The links included in the description are for Amazon, and I'm an Amazon affiliate, so full disclosure, I will make a small percentage commission if you choose to buy whatever's in that list below in the description to help out the Diamond H channel a little bit. I'm not going to get rich by any imagination, but it does help a little bit. It doesn't cost you any extra. The links that I have in the description are probably the lowest prices you can find, period. I have already bought these, and that's what I did back a couple of years ago. I personally use these on every piece of equipment that has a commercial airbox, just for peace of mind and walking by and taking a look at it and saying, yep, we're ready to go, instead of guessing or wondering while you're mowing, I wonder if that air filter is clean. Well, this takes the guesswork out of it. But if you're also like me and you have a standard maintenance program where you service or check everything when it's supposed to be checked, you know, some things need to be checked every day before you get on the piece of equipment. Like the tractor. Does everybody do that? No, but there's certain things that need to be checked before you ever operate that piece of equipment. That's the way I was trained many years ago, and it's just become habit, and it's a good habit to have. So I guess that's enough of my rambling today. I hope you learned something about air restriction gauges. I don't really recommend the one that I have on my tractor over there, just because I'm not a big fan of go, no-go gauges. I like to see exactly what that dude's doing. Like in this case right here, you can tell exactly how much vacuum is on that engine box, on that air box. And I never let that vacuum get halfway to the red zone. I actually have 2 sets of filters for everything I have on this piece of land. 2 air filters, 2 inner air filters, a whole shelf full of oil filters for multiple reasons. That's just me. You don't have to be like me. Everybody's going, wow, I hope not. Anyway, that's the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope we all learned something. If you have any questions, please comment below and I'll do my best to answer. If I don't know the answer, I will find out for you. Thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. Worst case scenario, you'll have to log into Google or log into your YouTube account and hit that subscribe button for me. That will help me out to gain more subscribers and do a lot more videos that may be helpful or entertaining even. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great day.